which we love to reach out to the public and let them know and say, you know what? Give us your opinion on some hot topics here. The opinion today for our Fade the Public poll at SportsGrid on X was asked, who will win tonight's NBA playoff games, which we've been doing all week long? The four options here are combinations. We'd like to say Knicks and Clippers, Knicks and Nuggets, Pistons and Clippers, Pistons and Nuggets. So I'll ask you first, Joe. Of those four options here, where did you go tonight on who's winning these basketball games?
Oh, it's a rough one here, but I tend to believe you with you on the Clippers, and I think it's going 7 with the Knicks. I always thought it was going 7, and I do think the Denver Clippers series was going 7 as well. So there you got it. Let's root for 7 games here in the first round with those teams.
I love it. Extending the series, because the one thing we do know as fans, where I always say I really enjoy the first round of the playoffs. And say, well, why would you enjoy that more? Which technically not, because of course we want to watch the NBA Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals. But you know what we love, Joe, as handicappers, people that gamble on sports and talk about it? Give me 3 to 4 games every single night. Give me the high leverage situations. Like, nobody gets excited about a sweep unless you had a ticket in your back pocket. Nobody wants the gentleman's sweep. Yeah, we love game 6s, but boy, when you could turn on that TV, Joe, and get a game number 7 and understand the high level of energy you're going to get from both sides and the crowd and that environment where if you win, you move on. If you lose, you go home. We love that. We do.
Yep. Yeah, exactly correct. And we've already seen that some of these, especially on some of these series, were big-time mismatches. But these 2 series that are going tonight, they were coin flips in a lot of people's mind, Donnie. I don't think Detroit got enough credit, and the price of Denver and the Clippers was always a coin flip, and that's kind of still what it is.
Yeah, it really is. Let's take a look at the odds market tonight for these 2 games here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. We're going to handicap these a little bit later in the show, but if we're looking, 7:30 p.m. tonight, Detroit Pistons home at Little Caesars Arena. This line opened up at the FanDuel Sportsbook as a favorite towards the Pistons, Joe, at 2.5. We're now seeing 1.5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook and 1.5 across the marketplace. Apparently, people buying into the Knicks and the line moving accordingly.
The problem to me is the same problem with the Knicks that we saw the Lakers did, is that the depth becomes an issue when Brunson's got to play 45 minutes and Cat's got to play 45 minutes, and Detroit can roll out, fresher legs the entire game, and being at home and the physicality here, it wears on teams here. I think Detroit's got one more in them here tonight, but they're basically telling you it's a coin flip at that price there, Donnie. Who do we buy in the fourth quarter when it matters the most? Who's going to have the fresher legs?
It's a great point you bring up, too, because we saw 2 closeout scenarios with teams on their home court. One was tremendous in Houston. The other one was the Lakers. Didn't even get to 100 and got knocked out in 5 games. I always like to say, when your back is against the wall like the Pistons, how do you come out strong in that first quarter? We'll have an indication of how that game is going to go. Game number 2 tonight, 10 p.m., maybe the most entertaining series so far of round number 1 in the NBA. That's the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers. As we said, a little bit later tonight, that line opened up as a Clippers favorite at -7 in Los Angeles. That line now sits at 6.5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook and 6.5 across the board. The total, Joe, same thing we saw typically in the playoffs, an opening number, a closeout situation. It's dropped slightly to 212 at the FanDuel Sportsbook, but as low as 211.5 at other outlets here. How are we feeling about the side for the Clippers? Open at 7, now slightly down.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this has got to be Kawhi time, right? And if we're all being completely honest here, this series should have been over here. The Nuggets have had a lot of things go their way in this series here. But I do think back against the wall at home, a place, Donnie, in which the Clippers had been very good after the All-Star break at home. I think it's Kawhi time. I think this is where he shows up and he gets this thing back to a game 7, and then at that point, it's really, truly a coin flip.
Now, if we look at both of these games, right, and again, analyzing it a little bit different than how you actually interact with, say, okay, who's going to win, who's going to lose? Give me this question, though, because, again, we saw 2 performances last night. Energy in the building, unbelievable performance by the Rockets, low energy, it felt like, for the Lakers. So tonight, 2 teams at home in closeout situations where if they don't win, they're not going to play a game number 7. Do we expect one of these teams maybe to be a little bit lackluster? Or are you expecting full gas out of the Pistons and the Clippers tonight?
I think it's full gas, and I think you've got a situation with Denver like Golden State where they knew they got one other game and it's going to be in their building coming up. So when push comes to shove, they'd much rather be available for that game 7 at home with fresh legs than anything else. So that's what I'd worry about with Denver. But I think Detroit's going to leave it all out on the court.
Yeah, by the way, Detroit should technically, for me, Joe, already have moved on in this series. Like, they blew game number 1. They got a foul call they should have got in the last home game they had. They won game 5 in the Garden there. So they have actually 2 playoff road wins here. Handle your business. Get me to a game number 7, which I'd love to see at the Garden. The shocker for me tonight, Joe, to be honest, would be if the Clippers don't show up tonight. And I don't mean that, look at that, the Nuggets rolled by 20 points. But I am expecting not a performance like we saw for Houston because a 30-point blowout early in that game, but I expect the Clippers really to take control. And if they do, the Nuggets aren't going to play out the string. You saw exactly what Golden State did. They didn't have it early. They didn't say, let's play to get it together in the second half. They handled their business at home in game number 6. We'll see how it turns out. As Ben Stevens would say to honor him today, you know what it would be? The best 2 words in sports? Game number 6, Joe Ranieri, because that's what we have tonight in the NBA. 2 game number 6s. The New York Knicks, the Detroit Pistons, the Nuggets, and the Clippers. Let's get down to business tonight and see what happens. First game, of course, the East Coast game. 7:30 p.m. start, 5:19, 5:20 on the rotation. That's the Knicks and the Pistons. As we started to talk out at the top of the hour. Line opened up, Joe. 2.5 as a favorite towards the Pistons, down to 1.5. Total up slightly at the FanDuel Sportsbook from that 213 to a 214 number. The Knicks should have closed the door in game 5, couldn't do that. Momentum could be on the side of the Detroit Pistons. What are we looking at in tonight's ball game?
Listen, I got again, Knicks are fortunate in this spot as it certainly feels like that poor Tim Hardaway Jr. 3-point attempt to end game 4 that he got absolutely mauled, and they admitted after the fact that it should have been a foul. Listen, this team has shown up and shown out with its back against the wall. It's going to be the 2nd straight game. I thought that was a huge effort at Madison Square Garden for a young, inexperienced team to go into the Garden of all places, Donnie, and be able to pull out a win and give yourself a chance at getting back home and a game 7, which we all know is anybody's, anything can happen there. If I'm the Knicks, I want this series over tonight. This has been by far the most physical series that we have had. The problem is Detroit is younger. They have more depth. So it's not going to be nearly as hard on them as it's going to be on this Knicks team if they got to go 7 games. I can't wait to see the battle with Duren and Cat because it's been a whole lot of fun to watch at this point. I still think Detroit gets it to a game 7 at the Garden here with a win tonight. And so does the market, by the way.
Love it. Oh, I would love to see it happen at this point. We'll see where that line ends up. By the way, game time. Let's just say at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, you see that graphic is 1.5, Joe. Where's that game time line at tonight?
Oh, I think the Knicks money will come in. I absolutely think the Knicks money will come. It's going to be a pick 'em any which way. Just pick the winner. Forget about the spread, whatever it may be. Just go ahead and pick the winner. And the total is going to be interesting. What do we get here tonight? Is it a defensive battle? It looks like what? We're getting a little bit of over money in the marketplace here as well.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch it play out. And 2, we understand that the thought process behind game 6s and 7s, elimination games, and we saw elimination game in game number 5 in the Garden, usually is more of a defensive effort, but the point scores always get my attention. Jalen Brunson tonight, 28.5. He always has the basketball in his hand. Cade Cunningham, 27.5. Karl Anthony Towns looking for a bounce back in his shooting performance at 23.5. If there was a points prop on the board or a player that you're focused on tonight, Joe, who would that player be?
Well, it would be Cade Cunningham for me. I mean, he's the guy that if Detroit is going to win, he is the guy that once again has got to be the catalyst to get it done. And playing at home, I like what they've done. The whole Cunningham and Duren pick and roll has absolutely destroyed this New York Knicks team, who is being way over reliant on a very banged up Jalen Brunson. How long can you do that? At what point does a Tom Thibodeau, let me run these guys into the ground mentality It's Brunson or bust for the Knicks, but I think Cunningham is the guy to look at for Detroit tonight.
Yeah, I feel like it as well. Like almost that correlation. Like you're trying to say, like, if my best player doesn't play well, we probably don't win the basketball game. But my best player can have a really good night, and we still might not win the basketball game. Because we're not talking about, hey, they just got to cover, Joe, 7 or 8 points in this game. You're basically asking your team either direction to win this game outright. And if your best player doesn't play well, you're probably not going to win a close game, certainly outright. If we look at the FanDuel betting markets here in this game, 61% of the bets on the spread towards the New York Knicks. 55% of the money right now coming in for the New York Knicks. We'll keep an eye on that as certainly the afternoon moves on to see where that does settle in. But that game, Joe, is the first game of a doubleheader and an elimination doubleheader tonight once again. The second game, as we talked about, out in Los Angeles, Intuit Dome, 5:21, 5:22 on the rotation, 10 o'clock tip time. Of course, that's the Denver Nuggets looking to close out the series against the Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers home court advantage. That line opened up as a 7-point spread at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Now reporting back at 6.5, just about with every other book as well. The total, however, Joe, 213.5 has now dipped to 212 even, and some outlets even showing as low as 211.5 now. Nuggets Clippers tonight out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's the total is interesting to me, right? Because we saw a rock bottom, I think, for the what they score 83 in game 3.
Yeah.
Then they got 101 in game 4. They got 131 in game 5. Jamal Murray is hitting everything he seems to be throwing up right now, which is a great situation now for the Denver Nuggets. But listen, Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon have also been lighting them up from the perimeter here. If you get that kind of night from the Nuggets again, Kawhi and company have got a matchup. Norm Powell, Kawhi. I could see this thing going up and over. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get a pretty darn good offensive display from both these teams because they both have shown the ability to light each other up. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Now, by the way, we just talked about the Knicks series right here at the FanDuel Sportsbook, or should I say the Knicks game there. Slight favorites toward New York, both on the ticket count, about 6 out of every 10 tickets, and also in the money, about 5.5 or 55%, coming in on their direction. How about these numbers for this game? Because when you line it up again, it's still sitting at 6.5. It's a heavy favorite. 80% of the spread bets coming in on the Denver Nuggets, Joe, with 72% of the money. A heavy public side tonight, just looking and saying, hey, the Nuggets are good. That's about a touchdown. They don't have to win, but they can cover. Is that sort of a danger zone? Because for me, I would either think that the Nuggets win this game outright or they lose by double digits. If I'm taking the Nuggets tonight, it's probably me, Joe, on the money line.
I'll tell you this, though. The last 10 times that these teams have actually played one another, the Nuggets have only lost by more than 7 points once. That's it. So they usually tend to play much closer games here. I think this is going to be a fun one. Listen, Denver's defense is not going to scare anybody. So if the Clippers have a good night offensively, they're going to drop some points. The question is, are the Nuggets going to remain hot, especially from the outside on the road? If they do, they're going to be a ton of points in this game.
Yeah, the worst case scenario, right, for the Denver Nuggets, played all the way through, maybe overtime, lose a heartbreak. I'm like, man, we just played 5 quarters here. Now we got to fly back and try to win it, which again, you do have the next game, which is game 7 in your back pocket at home, but nobody wants to go to a game 7 saying like, ooh, that's exactly where we want. Like the Golden State Warriors blow a game number 5 and go, okay, we got game number 6. Oh no, we lost. It's not over for them. Okay, we still can regroup and win game number 7. So be careful what you ask for, saying, you know what, we don't want to try in game number 6 because we have the game number 7. The points props here. Nikola Jokic, Joe, 27.5. James Harden, 20.5. Kawhi Leonard, 24.5. Who do you have your eye on? Jamal Murray went ballistic in the last game. He's posted up at a 20.5 for this game.
Yeah, it's big, but I mean, there's a couple of guys that got to get it going here. Norm Powell has got to be able to get it going here. 20.5, I think, is his number there. And I also think keeping an eye on Aaron Gordon's point prop. He was hitting it from the outside there. 13.5, I think, is what his point prop is. Would not be shocked, too, if he gets up and over that number tonight.
Yeah, I tend to like in this because I'm worried about the blowout, which again is like, well, Donnie, you should just take the Clippers. I do think the Clippers win tonight, but again, I thought in the closeout situation, I thought the Lakers would win. How about two teams in Los Angeles getting eliminated 24 hours apart? That would be tough for the NBA saying, man, we just lost a big market. But for me, it's like James Harden 20 and a half. He's got to have a good game tonight. We need that vintage Kawhi, which we've seen in the series, 24 and a half, to really come out the doors. The one thing I'll be worried about, even on both sides, is let's just say the Clippers get off hot and they don't really have to play too much in the fourth quarter, which would leave you a little bit short. I'm nervous. I probably would lean towards Jokic under 27 and a half. But it's one of those where if the Denver Nuggets show come out hot in this game, Jokic could do one of his 32, 15, and 12 type performances in a closeout situation. They're good, but I'm just looking for the Clippers to hold the whole court tonight. And we get to a game number 7, which would be great to watch and great theater. Tom Vecchio comes up next. We'll talk more NBA. Right back at it right here on the early line, Sirius XM Channel 159, Sports Grid Network, hour number 3, certainly in full effect. Big time games tonight, and we need a big time perspective. I'm Donnie Rightside, he's Joe Ranieri, and we welcome in Tom Vecchio. We need some advice on props. We need to get it right tonight. We need to see extended series. That's what we love to see. Tom, how are we feeling this morning on a Thursday?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we have some awesome series tonight across the NBA, the NHL. We have some day baseball that we could dive into. I'm ready to go.
Let's get after it right away. Tonight, Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, the New York Knicks taking on the Detroit Pistons. We just talked about this, both myself and Joe Ranieri. Line opened up at 2.5, now sits 1.5. Your thoughts? Knicks, Pistons tonight, Tom.
I really do think the Knicks get it done, and it's going to be a big time under game. I really do. And just the way the series has gone, like we've seen unders, we've seen like the intensity of the fouls late, which I personally love to see. But, I always worry about the scoring from the Knicks. And this is something I've talked about since before the series started, is the Brunson minutes for the Knicks. Where does the scoring come from? And the Pistons have really given them a tough matchup. And defensively, I think I really am encouraged what the Pistons are doing. So I think the Knicks come away with the victory, and I do think we're going to see a very clear under right from the jump. And that also brings me to Karl-Anthony Towns, under 23.5 points. Man, Jalen Duren and Paul Reed have done a great job at keeping him under control. Outside of that one game that he bounced back after he didn't have a field goal attempt for the final 18 minutes of the game prior, Towns has been good this series, and he's been clutch this series. He hasn't been that explosive offensive player. So I think under is the play. Listen, we were talking during the commercial break, if you want to side with the Pistons, it's not about taking them tonight. It's about just taking them on the series price, which we talked about, which is at plus 380 right now. So there are multiple ways to go about it. I do think the Knicks are the better team, and they will get it done, but it's not going to be easy tonight.
And that's the problem with the Knicks. They've been the better team a lot, but they can't seem to beat better teams that actually show up and don't get pushed around by them. That's why they've had such a hard time all year long. But put up or shut up time for the Knicks tonight. And the same thing for the Clippers, Tom. I mean, the fact that they're even in a spot to be eliminated in this game 6 is crazy. What do you expect from them tonight?
So you guys were talking in the previous segment about, and Joe, you specifically mentioned it, like, hey, we're not worried about the Nuggets defense. We know that the points will be there from the Clippers, right? So to me, I'm not worried about the Clippers offense. I'm not worried about them scoring. Tonight has to be about their defense. Tonight has to be about the other things outside of their offense. They've scored, 100 points or more in every game except the one where they only had 99. So when I'm looking at this game, it's like, okay, we know where it should be getting scoring from Kawhi. It really should be there from Harden. I think Zubats has to do a little bit more on the boards. But when I'm looking at it from a prop perspective, I think my favorite one has to be Kawhi over 11.5 rebounds plus assists. Again, I'm not worried about their offense. Tonight has to be about everything else other than their offense. When we see this series, he's been pretty darn consistent, and he's been getting to this number simply on one stat: 9 rebounds, 11 rebounds, 11 assists, whatever it might be. So the fact that he can get there on one of these stats alone, combined with, I'm thinking that we're going to see an under tonight, they have to bring the defense against the Nuggets offense. Kawhi's going to be on the board tonight. He'll pick up a few assists, and I think the over is the clear for Kawhi props, but the game probably still falls under.
Let's take a look at both of these games tonight, too, in its totality. Like, if we ask for, like, surprises, like, what would surprise you tonight? A winner or loser, or maybe a prop bet? Like, man, I didn't expect this out of this player.
What would surprise me tonight would be, another Brunson performance. Would he shoot 4 of 16 the other night? Like, if he just is a no-show tonight and he's held under 20 points, again, I think the game's going to fall under. I don't think he's going to be flying to 40 points, but him finishing with 18 would be an issue. I know he twisted his ankle at that, like the near sideline play at the end of the game. So him not scoring tonight, I think, would be a massive surprise overall. Like he's the engine of the offense, very clearly.
Yeah. Where's Harden been? Have you seen him? Is he on the back of a milk carton? Is it like, are we fading him again? Because it looks like Denver's like, Harden's not beating us here tonight. It kind of feels like, all right, so is it Powell? Who's going to win this game here tonight for the Clippers?
I mean, for the Clippers, we saw a nice offensive performance from Zubac the other night. Like I said, it could be Norm Powell. I don't want to say like this is just par for the course when it comes to Harden in, April, May, whatever it might be in the playoffs. But again, this is the kind of thing where it's like, hey, we will let Harden shoot. You have to beat us, Harden. We'll take care of Kawhi. We'll worry about the other players. It's just like, hey, have your shots. We'll let you take them.